Council is now in session. Please stand for the invocation by Councilman Miltier and the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag.
Let us pray. Eternal God, our Heavenly Father, again, we come in your presence. And we're grateful for this opportunity. Give us wisdom and courage as we go through the decision-making process. For this we shall always remember your name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The Freedom of Information Act certification is required at this time. Madam Clerk, would you please present the resolution for consideration?
A resolution certifying the closed meeting of July 17, 2013, pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3712, is presented at this time.
Move for
Move for
approval.
adoption.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please prepare to vote. Please vote. Madam Clerk.
Motion is approved by a vote of 8-0.
Thank you. Our next item is approval of the minutes. A motion would so be in order.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please prepare to vote. Please vote. Madam Clerk.
Motion is approved by a vote of 8-0.
Thank you. We have a special presentation this evening, which is our 2013 National Night Out Invitation and Proclamation. Madam Manager?
Yes, Mayor Johnson, Vice Mayor, members of the City Council. At this time, Donna Klink and Chief Thomas Bennett will come forward and make a presentation.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of Council, and Madam City Manager. Chief Thomas Bennett and I are here tonight to extend an invitation. It's late July. Communities have been working hard for months now, and it's unbearably hot outside. That can mean only one thing, that National Night Out is just around the corner. In fact, we're 20 days away from the big night. For a culture that seems obsessed with networking, friending, and connecting, we seem pretty isolated from the people who are literally right next door. National Night Out is a great opportunity to forge connections with our neighbors. It may not seem like a whole year's passed since that fun-filled night last August, but it's been a year filled with National Night Out spirit, where our citizens have partnered with our public safety officers, working together to keep Suffolk safe for our residents, visitors, and business owners. I'm going to ask Andy to play a short video reminder of the great times we had last year. Following that, we'll have Chief Bennett give kickoff details and accept a proclamation from Mayor Johnson. Roll it, Andy.
Following the animal care facility opening, it was time for National Night Out, and we all know that no one does National Night Out like Suffolk. This year, rainy skies were no match for the fun and excitement of the night, with over 40 community and business parties scheduled across the city. From north to south and from east to west, it was the familiar red, white, and blue dotting neighborhoods, streets, and marquees. National Night Out offers residents and public safety personnel an opportunity to join together to say no to crime and have a good time doing it.
extremely successful in promoting involvement in crime-fighting activities, strengthening police-community partnerships, and encouraging neighborhood camaraderie as part of our fight to keep Suffolk as safe as possible. There's no better example of our people getting involved than National Night Out. People all over the city come together to make a statement that crime will not be tolerated and that we will all work together to keep our city safe. This year, National Night Out will kick off at the pavilion located behind the Visitor Center at 321 North Main Street on Tuesday, August 6th at 5:30 p.m. Attendees will have the opportunity to hear comments from the mayor and their public safety officials. In addition, citizens will be able to choose to attend a specific tour as part of a motorcade unit visiting participating communities. Please bring a friend and join us in demonstrating our commitment to keeping our city safe. I look forward to seeing everyone on August the 6th.
Madam Clerk, would you please read the proclamation that's going to be presented to Chief Bennett?
Whereas the National Association of Town Watch and Target are sponsoring a unique nationwide crime, drug, and violence prevention program on August 6, 2013, known as National Night Out. And whereas the 30th Annual National Night Out provides a unique opportunity for Suffolk to join forces with thousands of other communities across the country in promoting cooperative police community crime prevention efforts. And whereas it is essential that all residents of Suffolk be aware of the importance of crime prevention programs and the impact that their participation can have on reducing crime, drugs, and violence in our locality. And whereas police, community partnerships, neighborhood safety, awareness, and cooperation are important themes of the National Night Out program. Now, therefore, I, Linda T. Johnson, Mayor of the City of Suffolk, Virginia, do hereby proclaim August 6, 2013 as National Night Out in Suffolk, Virginia, and call upon all residents to support and participate in this important event that celebrates the value of safe communities. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Suffolk to be affixed this 17th day of July in the year of our Lord, 2013.
We look forward to seeing everybody on August 6th. I probably should tell council that we've been issued a summons that we're all going to do the wobble together on National Night Out.
Wobble, what's that? We'll have to practice that.
Thank you very much. At this time, we will consider the removal of consent agenda items and the adoption of the entire agenda as presented. Removal of the consent agenda items would only be necessary if any member of City Council wishes to vote on that item separately, and a motion would then be required. Questions and requests for information can be addressed during the consideration of the consent agenda and after the agenda speakers. Does any member of council wish to remove any item for a separate vote? If not, could I have a motion to adopt the agenda in its entirety?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please prepare to vote. Please vote. Madam Clerk.
Motion is approved by a vote of 8-0.
Thank you. Do we have any speakers this evening?
No, ma'am.
Would you please read the consent agenda?
Item number 7, an ordinance to accept and appropriate fiscal year 2013 Community Development Block Grant and Home Investment Partnership Program funding. And item number 8, an ordinance amending Section 86-119 of the Code of the City of Suffolk related to the issuance of parking violations.
Thank you. Would any member of City Council like additional information on either of these consent agenda items?
Item number 8, dealing with violation of parking.
I'd like to have number 7.
7 and 8, Madam Manager.
Thank you, Mayor Johnson, Vice Mayor, members of City Council. Item number 7 is to accept and appropriate from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development $420,056. $114,669 is for CDBG funds, and these funds will be used for emergency home repairs, improvements in the Pleasant Hill neighborhood, service support for 4Kids Needs Shelter, and the Western Tidewater Free Clinic to support low and moderate income persons and families. $387 is for the home funds, and that is to support the Western Tidewater Consortium, which includes the city of Suffolk and Franklin and the counties of Isle of Wight and Southampton.
Thank you.
Item number 8, at this time, we would ask William Hutchins, our Deputy City Attorney, to come forward and provide the clarification as it relates to the city code.
This is just merely a housekeeping matter to clarify that parking tickets are issued both by police officers as well as parking attendants. And the Virginia Code generally refers to the term law enforcement officer for police officers, but we sort of use that term interchangeably throughout the code. So in order to remove any confusion, we'll delineate that it's both police officers and the parking attendants.
Thank you. Any other questions? If not, a motion on...
Move for approval.
Second.
Agenda.
We have a motion to approve the consent agenda. Please prepare to vote. Please vote. Madam Clerk.
Motion is approved by a vote of 8-0.
Thank you. We'll start our public hearings this evening. Our first one is an ordinance to provide final authorization to issue and sell bonds by the City of Suffolk, Virginia. Madam Manager.
Yes, Mayor Johnson, Vice Mayor, members of City Council at this time, and Seward, our Finance Director, will provide the overview.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council. This is your public hearing that would provide for an ordinance to be approved tonight for the final authorization for the issuance and sale of bonds in support of your FY14 capital budget. As you will recall, as a part of the operating budget that was put forward, we would issue debt that would support not only $18 million of public utility projects, but is also about $11 million in support of the Southern Elementary School, $12 million for the 911 equipment replacement, $8.5 million in support of some VDOT matching funds for transportation needs in our city, and about $3 million for public safety equipment and renovations. You all did approve an ordinance earlier in June that would give a preliminary authorization. The only change from that preliminary authorization to tonight's final authorization is the addition of a few paragraphs that would allow for staff to move forward with refunding bonds, possibly not through the bond market, but through private placement through the banks. That is, if we go to the bond market and the rates are not favorable, what we would do is not refund those bonds through the bond issuance, but we would rather seek competitive bids through banking institutions, again, only if we receive a 3% savings. So this is your public hearing. I would mention that we do have T.W. Bruno, who is with McGuire Woods. That's our city's bond counsel. Should there be any questions relevant to the ordinance after the public hearing?
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, would you please explain the timing system for speakers?
This is a public hearing. Each speaker is asked to provide their name and address and will receive 3 minutes. The podium is equipped with a visual timing cue system to assist our speakers in managing their time. At the 1-minute point, you will see the blinking green light. At the 30-second point, you will see the yellow light. Once your 3 minutes has expired, you will see the red light, and you are asked to be seated.
Thank you. This public hearing is now open. Would the first speaker please come forward?
Point of order, Madam Mayor. The city code specifies that public hearings, individuals, proponents of the motion have 15 minutes to speak, and the opponents have 15 minutes to speak. City Council can vote by a vote of 2/3 majority to extend the overall time for debate or discussion on the public hearing, but there's no provision to set time limits on individuals speaking.
Turn that to our city attorney.
A point of order is made for those who are part of the assembly who have a right to vote.
Thank you.
Second point of order, Madam Mayor. The Code of Suffolk specifies that city council meetings will be held in accordance with Robert's Rules of Order. and that Robert's Rules of Order say that any individual within that meeting has the right to bring a point of order.
Madam Attorney.
I disagree. It's for those who have a right to, who are part of the assembly. The people who come to council are allowed to speak, but they do not have voting rights and are not a part of the assembly itself.
Thank you. We will now proceed with the public hearing. Sir, do you have any comments proceeding to this public hearing?
Last budget hearing, we had the budget was proposed and approved by this council. And in that budget, you said that you would approve or planned on $28 million in new debt. Now you're saying you're going to approve $58 million in new debt. I would ask where the additional money is coming and why are we approving a budget if we have no intention of following it? Thank you for your time.
Next speaker. Do we have any other speakers? If not, this public hearing is now closed. Councilman Duman.
Yes, Mayor, if I could ask Ann to come forward, if we could, I don't exactly recall in our last presentation what the potential amount of refunding would be that's included in this figure in the event that you do choose to refund prior bonds at a more advantageous rate, which is not increasing our debt, but in fact reducing our expense.
Exactly. Originally, the amount that was identified for refunding was approximately $21 million. The bond market changes every day, and so unfortunately that $21 million went down to 18, and at this point is down to about $13 million. And that's based upon those bonds that are eligible to be called and the rates that we are paying, what our savings would be. Our policy requires that we will have a 3% savings on our bonds before we would call them in. So the amount, unfortunately, at this point has gone down. Now, we're planning to go to sale tomorrow. So if the bond market picks back up, we have the ability of grabbing all of those refunded bonds.
And if my memory serves me correctly, I believe about $3 million of that, those were actually coming up to maturity, and there may be a small penalty on the remaining $10 million, $10 or $11 million, I think it was.
And what we have to have is a net savings with all penalties and everything of 3%. At this point, the total savings that's estimated based on the $13 million that are outstanding is about $700,000 over an 11-year period.
Okay, and also I think I would be remiss, I know I was just informed that the two new bond ratings came out from Standard & Poor's and Moody's, and Standard & Poor's was where we were AA2 with Moody's and AA plus with Standard & Poor's, so that'll put us in a rather advantageous position as far as negotiating those bonds.
Absolutely.
I was going to ask you to comment on those ratings as well.
Sure. Well, we did recently make a trip to New York and told them quite a bit about our city. They were very impressed. They basically, those ratings that came back affirmed our strong financial position. All of them said basically stay the course, continue doing what we're doing, adhering to policies, working hard to be prudent, expanding our tax base. A lot of positive comments in that commentary, and all feedback was very good. So,
thank you,
Vice Mayor.
Yes, I was going to say that I was glad to see that you're thinking more than one direction and making sure that you issue and sell these bonds at the best interest of our city. So at this time, I would like to make a motion this ordinance be approved.
Second.
Mayor, just as a point of clarification, the finance director did indicate there was an amendment, so that would be as amended, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
We have an amended before us. Would you like to respond, give us so everyone explains exactly what we're voting on?
What we've done is we've added in a paragraph or two in the amended ordinance that basically would allow staff, should we go to bond market tomorrow and the rates are not favorable for the refundings that we spoke about, we would like the option to have a plan B, and that would be to take competitive bids through a private placement with the banking institutions. The language that's been added in that replacement ordinance would allow us to do that, so that hopefully we can continue to pursue some savings for the citizens.
Thank you. Councilman Parr?
Ann, just for clarification once again, and that's so that we could strategically be in a position to save even more money if possible.
Absolutely,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
Right now, the rates are pretty low. We want to take advantage of that to the greatest extent possible.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Who was the second? Okay. All right, please prepare to vote. Please vote. Madam Clerk.
Motion is approved by a vote of 8 to 0.
Thank you. Our next public hearing is an ordinance authorizing lease of box hangar number 6 on certain property owned by the City of Suffolk located at the Suffolk Executive Airport. Madam Manager, would you provide an overview, please?
Yes, Mayor Johnson, Vice Mayor, members of City Council. At this time, Kevin Hughes is going to provide the staff report.
Thank you, Madam Manager. Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of Council, the lease on Box Hangar 7 at the Suffolk Executive Airport has just expired, and so we put out an RFP for that. To make you familiar with it, if you're not, Box Hangar 6 is encircled there in red. It's the closest hangar, probably our oldest hangar, too, adjacent to the terminal building. The hangar itself is about 2,400 square feet. Of that, 1,600 is the hangar, 800 is the office. We're also looking at some outside space to allow the tenant to use, and that's about 4,800 square feet of space on the back, highlighted there in red, an additional 8 parking spaces up front. As I mentioned, we put out an RFP. We had 2 bids. One was for Decker Aviation. The other was from Skydive Suffolk. Skydive Suffolk. Decker Aviation proposed $710 a month, $8,520 per year. They're a fixed wing and rotary aircraft maintenance, meaning airplane and helicopter. They also do helicopter tours and aerial photography. On the growth model, that was also part of the decision. They're proposing some new certifications with FAA that include flight instruction and some charter service. Skydive Suffolk was proposing $700 per month. That's $8,400 per year. They've seen tremendous growth since they've moved into Box Hangar 7. That's just adjacent from Box Hangar 6. With that, they're looking for some expansion capabilities for parachute packing and classroom space. Their opportunity for growth is really connected to an indoor skydiving operation that's proposed in Virginia Beach in spring 2014. And I believe they've worked out an agreement to where if you have a good time over there, they'd sell Skydive Suffolk over here. And so that was their justification for growth in that. And so we took both of those factors into consideration, and knowing that the indoor skydiving operation is a little further out, it's probably a little hard to put your finger on. And so we thought the monetary value Decker put out there, as well as the ability to diversify the airport with that sort of maintenance, is definitely a pro for us. So based upon those factors, staff is recommending to execute a lease agreement with on Box Hangar 6 with Decker Aviation. Before I step down, there's one note I'd like to bring to your attention. In the lease that was part of your package under the section of term, just need to clarify a few words that we need to clean up when we execute. Again, this better reflects what we put in the RFP, which was for a 5-year term, and we had the word month in there instead. So to clarify, under that section of term, the lease will commence August 1st, 2013. That first 1-year period will end July 31, 2014, and then the lease agreement will continue in force thereafter on an annual basis. It previously said monthly, not to exceed an additional 4 1-year terms, and I believe it said monthly before that. We don't need to amend the ordinance. This is just a cleanup item that we will get once we execute the agreement. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have following the public hearing.
Thank you. Before we move forward, I'll ask the city attorney to speak to public hearings.
Madam Mayor, I want to apologize because it did not address the question posed by the speaker in its entirety. He brought up point of order, and my statement as it relates to that remains the same, because it is something that is used by people who are part of the debate of an assembly and not those who are just allowed to speak at an assembly. As it relates specifically to the public hearing, our code section for the public hearing is City Code Section 2-92, and it says that the public hearing is limited to 30 minutes. However, the policy for the dais and those who serve on council has to try to divide it so that everybody will have an equal opportunity to speak. They always have had the ability to change the time in which people are speaking and the entire time as it relates to the 30 minutes by way of a motion with a 2/3 vote. So I just wanted to make that clear. That is a policy that we try to make certain that everybody gets an opportunity to speak. However, at the end of a speaker, if the council member wants wants that person to speak longer, which has happened in the past, a vote is appropriate at that time with 2/3 to extend that person's time.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you please review the timing system for speakers?
As this is a public hearing, each speaker is asked to provide their name and address and will receive 3 minutes. Our podium is equipped with a visual timing cue system to assist speakers in managing their time. At the 1-minute point, you will see the blinking green light. At the 30-second point, you will see the yellow light. And once your 3 minutes has expired, you will see the red light and are asked to be seated.
Thank you. This public hearing is now open. Will the first proponent please come forward? Do we have anyone to speak in favor? Do we have anyone to speak in opposition? Hearing no speakers, this public hearing is closed. Council?
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve
The recommended,
of Decker Aviation
Yeah.
LLC.
Yeah.
Yes. Please prepare to vote. Please vote. Madam Clerk?
Motion is approved by a vote of 8-0.
Thank you. Our next public hearing is an ordinance granting rezoning request RZ04-13, submitted by Greg Christofferson, applicant on behalf of John Lawson, care of W.M. Jordan Company, and Donald Perry, care of Continental Realty Services, property owners, to request a change in zoning from M1 Light Industrial Zoning District to OI Office Institutional Zoning District. Madam Manager.
Yes, Mayor Johnson, Vice Mayor, members of City Council. At this time, Scott Mills, our Planning Director, will provide the staff report.
Good evening, Mayor Johnson, Vice Mayor Brown, and members of City Council. The request before you is rezoning request RZ4-13. It's been submitted by Greg Christofferson, applicant on behalf of John Lawson, care of W.M. Jordan Company, and Donald Perry, care of Continental Realty Services, property owners, to request a change in zoning from M1 Light Industrial Zoning District to OI Office Institutional Zoning District. The property in question is highlighted on the overhead, and you can see it's zoned M1 between two parcels that are zoned OI Office Institutional. Property is located at 7021 Harborview Boulevard, identified as tax map 6, parcel 2E. Current zoning is M1 light industrial. The existing land use is office use, and the proposed land use will remain the same as an office use. The comprehensive plan identifies the property as being located within the suburban urban growth area with a mixed-use core designation. The applicant is requesting a change in the zoning of the 7.7-acre site from M1 light industrial to OI office institutional. As you can see from the overhead, the site is fully developed with a single-family flex office building and associated parking. The change in zoning would allow for a change in the mix of allowable uses within the building. The building currently is occupied by office tenants that meet both the requirements of the M1 zoning district and the proposed OI zoning district. The request is consistent with the city's comprehensive plan and meets the criteria for the location of an office institutional district in accordance with the Unified Development Ordinance. There's adequate public facilities to serve the site. There are no proffered conditions, so this is not a conditional rezoning. And the Planning Commission at their meeting of June the 18th voted 5-0 to approve a resolution recommending approval of this request as submitted. Following your public hearing, if you have any questions, I'd be glad to entertain those.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you please explain the timing system?
This is a public hearing. Each speaker is asked to provide their name and address. We will have a 10-minute period for the proponents, 15 minutes for those in opposition, and then an additional 5 minutes for rebuttal. The podium is equipped with a visual timing cue system to assist speakers in managing their time. At the 2-minute point, you will see the blinking green light. At the 1-minute point, you will see the yellow light. And once your time has expired, you will see the red light, and you are asked to be seated.
Thank you. This public hearing is now open. Will the first proponent please come forward and give your name and address?
Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Council. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. My name is Greg Christofferson. I'm the applicant on behalf of John Lawson, W.M. Jordan Company, and Donald E. Perry with Continental Realty Services. I work with Jones Lang LaSalle, commercial real estate. As you can see, the building is an existing building, and our request to expand, to rezone it, will allow us to further attract businesses to this building, which would otherwise be prohibited under the existing M1 zoning. The O&I zoning will allow us to attract tenants that we are currently negotiating with. It will bring jobs, economic growth, and economic opportunity to the building and to northern Suffolk. We would be most grateful for your support, and I'll be happy to answer any questions now or during the hearing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else to speak in favor of? Do we have anyone to speak in opposition? Last call. Sir, would you like rebuttal? This public hearing is now closed. Council?
For approval.
Second.
We have a motion to approve. Please prepare to vote. Please vote. Madam Clerk.
Motion is approved by a vote of 8-0.
Thank you. Our next public hearing is an ordinance granting conditional use permit request C-13-13, submitted by Thomas Dickey of Monument Construction, LLC. Madam Manager?
Yes, Mayor Johnson, Vice Mayor, members of City Council. At this time, Scott Mills will provide the staff report.
Thank you. The request before you is conditional use permit request C-13-13 to permit a mixed-use multifamily building with an increase in density within the central business district. Has been submitted by Thomas Dickey of Monument Construction on behalf of Suffolk Commercial Property, LLC, in care of Streamco Property Resolutions, LLC, property owner. The location is 121, 129, 133 through 135, 137 through 139, 141, 143 through 145, and 147 through 149 West Washington Street. Property is identified on the overhead. Property is zoned CBD, Central Business District, with the HC, Historic Conservation Overlay District. The existing land use is primarily a mercantile building. It is primarily vacant at this time. And the proposed reuse would be for a mercantile building with approximately 6,000 square feet of commercial space and 68 residential units. The city's comprehensive plan designates this property as being in the central suburban urban growth area with a mixed-use core designation. A little bit of case history throughout its existence. The structures at this location have historically been used for mercantile use over time. They've had a number of prior certificate of occupancies issued for exterior renovations, roof repairs, signs, things of that nature on the building. The applicant wishes to renovate this building into a mixed-use building with 68 residential loft apartments and approximately 6,000 square feet of ground floor rental space. As I mentioned, this is in the historic district, and they will have to have approvals through a certificate of appropriateness from the Historic Landmarks Commission. In regard to the Unified Development Ordinance, the Unified Development Ordinance in the Central Business District under Table 407-1 of the Unified Development Ordinance does allow an increase in density for reuse for a building in the Central Business District for residential use as a mixed-use building. And they have submitted this application in accordance with that provision. There is public water and sewer available to the site. The site is totally developed with building and impervious cover, therefore will not have an impact on stormwater management. Any modifications to the exterior building, as I mentioned, will require a certificate of appropriateness and require the submittal of a site plan. There are some modifications to the rear of the building in regard to some landscaping and entry points into the rear of the building. If you know, the same company converted the buildings just to the east and also made modifications to the rear for landscaping, entry, and so forth. So this is a site plan that would indicate that. This is a copy of the elevation from the exterior, and this is a colored rendering of that, so make a substantial difference along that West Washington Street corridor and continue the work that has been completed with the loft building just to the east. Again, 68 units, mostly one-bedroom and loft-type units within the building with ground floor commercial use fronting West Washington Street. There are several conditional use permit criteria in the Unified Development Ordinance. This application has been reviewed and been found to be consistent with those. In regard to off-street parking, the applicant does intend to use available off-street parking in public parking lots to serve the anticipated use. We believe there is adequate availability of off-street parking to serve the use. In addition, our Economic Development Department did do a survey over a period of time at multiple points of time during the day, looking at parking lots. There's a parking lot directly behind this building, and we believe there's adequate occupancy in those parking lots to handle the proposed units here. I will note, too, that, again, a lot of times in a central business district, you'll have shared parking. You may have people the tenants that live here, many of them will work outside of the central business district, therefore turning over parking spaces for the commercial uses, and then when they return in the evenings, there'll be available parking. But notwithstanding that, we believe that during the day, there's also adequate available parking to serve the anticipated parking needs. I will note that the Planning Commission at their meeting of June the 18th voted 5-0 to approve a resolution recommending approval of this request with the conditions contained in your approving ordinance. And following your public hearing, if you have any questions, I'll be glad to entertain those.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you please explain the timing system for speakers?
This is a public hearing, and each speaker is asked to provide their name and address. We will have a 10-minute period for the proponents, 15 minutes for those in opposition, and an additional 5 minutes for rebuttal. The podium is equipped with a visual time and cue system to assist speakers in managing their time. At the 2-minute point, you will see the blinking green light. At the 1-minute point, you will see the yellow light. Once your time has expired, you will see a red light, and you're asked to be seated.
Thank you. This public hearing is now open. Would the first proponent please come forward? Give your name and address, please.
I'm Tom Dickey from Richmond, Virginia. I'd like to thank the city manager, mayor, vice mayor, and city council for allowing us to come before you tonight. Hopefully you guys will approve this project. This building's been vacant for a long time, and it's been a real eyesore. We think the plan that we have in place is going to be a real asset to the city, and hopefully it'll help the city continue its improvement it's done over the last 5 to 10 years. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker in favor of? Do we have anyone else to speak in favor of the project? Do we have anyone to speak in opposition?
I apologize for last time. Chris Dove, 852 Colonel Lee Drive, in case you forgot. I'm confused. Am I limited to 3 minutes this time or 15? Or is there anyone else we want to make sure can speak, or
Sir,
just go with 15?
You have time to speak. Say your piece.
I was just confused. You've given conflicting instructions.
No,
That's
sir,
all.
we have not.
Anyway, my main concern with this particular one is that there has been no real attempt to increase available parking. Now, it's been addressed during the day that there shouldn't be any overlap. There's people leave the area because there are no jobs in downtown Suffolk and go somewhere else, and then the people that do shop downtown will be able to get there. But this doesn't equate for anything during the evening. So basically, if we establish these apartments, then that means that any downtown businesses will have to close down after evening because they won't be able to find parking and customers won't be able to find parking. This is also true during the weekends, when we can assume these people won't be working. They'll be actually at home in their lofts, taking up all parking. There aren't 68 spots in that parking lot next to the Suffolk News Herald. There's significantly less. So downtown parking is very restricted now, and it's been an issue for a long time. This is just going to going to make it worse. And so my concern is that we should probably, I like the idea. It's just that they're not addressing the parking issue, and I think that should be part of the equation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else to speak in opposition? Sir, we have a 5-minute rebuttal. Anyone to speak?
I don't know really how to respond. I think there's probably over 100 spots there, and there's also a lot of parking on the other side of Washington Street. So I think what Economic Development said, there's usually at least 55 available spots at any time. So we have 68 apartments, average one vehicle per apartment. So, that's if everybody's there. So I don't think this is going to be an issue. I've never had a problem parking the lot. Thank you.
Thank you. We have 4 minutes and 37 seconds of rebuttal. Not, this public hearing is closed. Council? Councilman Parr.
Couple of things. I'm in support of the project. There is ample parking, and obviously, if you would go down there at nighttime, you would know what type of parking it is behind the courthouse and all. It's zip in the lots. I never seem to have a problem, even during the day, having a parking spot. And I do believe, if my memory serves me right, it's over 100 spaces behind that particular building we're talking about. And, they're not right at the front door. But then again, when you go to Walmart, you're not parking at the front door either. So, I keep hearing about the parking, we're going to do a parking ticket, we're going to do this. We have ample parking. Maybe we just need to be able to put one foot in front of the other to get to where we want to get. But there is ample parking, and with that, I'd like to make a motion for the approval of conditional use permit C13-13.
Second.
We have a second. Vice Mayor, did you want to speak, or did you have a question?
I was just going to echo what the Councilman Parr said. we have been working, trying to revitalize the downtown for a long time. And I think we are very grateful for a good company like Monument Construction to come, and I know you're going to do a good job. And I'm hoping that this works out in such a fashion that you will want to stay downtown and do some others. You have my support, so at this point, I'm ready to vote.
Thank you. We have a motion to approve. Please prepare to vote. Please vote. Madam Clerk.
Motion is approved by a vote of 8-0.
Thank you very much. Our next public hearing is an ordinance granting conditional use permit request C-14-13. Madam Manager.
Yes, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and members of City Council. At this time, Scott Mills will also provide this staff report.
Thank you. The request before you is conditional use permit request C-14-13 to permit a place of worship in accordance with provisions of the Unified Development Ordinance. The applicant is Chantel and Stephen Hamlin on behalf of George and Ionis Taglis, who are the property owners. The property is located at 2109B Holland Road, identified as zoning map 33, parcel 112. This is located between Manning Bridge Road and Forest Glen Drive. It is identified on the screen on above. It is zone B2, general commercial district. It has a special quarter overlay district as well. There's an existing commercial building and associated off-street parking on site. And this proposed use would be to lease some of the space in this existing building for a small place of worship with less than 6,000 square feet in the main sanctuary. Regarding the comprehensive plan, it identifies the property as being located in the central suburban urban growth area with a suburban designation. The applicant is proposing regular church services to be conducted on Sunday and Wednesday evenings. There's no daycare associated with this use. However, occasional weekday sessions consisting of Bible studies, Bible teachings, meetings, and counseling will be conducted. There's an off-street area directly adjacent to the building, which will be utilized by the church, and there is available off-street parking available in that lot. This is another picture of the building. You may have seen this building before. The parcel is currently accessed off of Holland Road, has a commercial entrance in place with right turn lane. This is a right-in, right-out entrance. There is no median break at this location. The site is currently served by public water and a private septic system. Public sewer is currently available by means of an 8-inch gravity main located within an easement adjacent to Holland Road. And in order to adequately serve the proposed assembly use, a condition requiring connection to the public sewer system is proposed. There are several approval criteria for conditional use permits, which are noted in your staff report in accordance with the Unified Development Ordinance. Staff has reviewed these, feels that it meets all of those requirements as indicated in your staff report. I will note the Planning Commission at their meeting of June the 18th voted 5-0 to approve a resolution recommending approval of this request with the 3 conditions contained in your approving ordinance. Following your public hearing, if you have any questions, I'll be glad to entertain those.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you please explain the timing system for speakers?
This is a public hearing, and each speaker is asked to provide their name and address. We have a 10-minute period for proponents, 15 minutes for those in opposition, and then an additional 5 minutes for rebuttal. The podium is equipped with a visual timing cue system to assist speakers in managing their time. At the 2-minute point, you will see the blinking green light. The 1-minute point, you will see the yellow light, and once your time has expired, you will see a red light, and you are asked to be seated.
Thank you. This public hearing is now open. With the first proponent, please come forward. Anyone to speak in favor of?
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and to all the council members. My name is Chantel Hamlin, and this is my husband, Stephen Hamlin, and we reside at 526 Batty Avenue here in Suffolk, Virginia. We are here asking that the conditional use request will be granted as a place of worship. We have been established in Suffolk as a ministry since 2006, and during that time, our ministry has several sub-ministries, such as food and clothing ministry, jailhouse ministry, as well as a drug ministry, as well as a drug ministry. During this time, we have resided at several different places to worship. Our first place we outgrew, so now we're just looking for a permanent place to worship so we can have a stable place where people can come out and worship when they get out of jail. If they want somewhere to come and worship freely at, we are there for them. So right now, we just need a place where we can grow. And as you can see in the picture, it's 3 units, but to the left, the owner uses that space there, so it wouldn't be a hindrance to anybody else that's going to lease the place out. He has no problem with it. And as far as the septic saying the owner has already paid for the deposit, and that will be officially connected on the 29th of this month. So before we take our seat, we just ask that you will think hard about it and grant us just a place of worship. We're only asking for a place to worship freely. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker in favor of? Is there anyone else to speak in favor of? Is there anyone to speak in opposition? Would you like your 5-minute rebuttal? No? This public hearing is now closed. Council?
I move that the ordinance C-14-13 be approved.
I have a question. I have a question for Scott. Scott, this building itself will remain on the tax rolls, will it not?
Yes, they are leasing this building, so
Okay.
it would remain on the tax rolls with the property.
I have no problem.
Vice Mayor?
And I just want to say this on behalf of the applicant. I've been knowing Mr. Hamlin and his Ms. Chantel for a long time. When I first came here as a school teacher, he was a good student then, and he's doing awesome now. So I'm very proud of what you've done over the period of years, young man, and looking forward to visiting your assembly.
We have a motion to approve. Please prepare to vote. Please vote. Madam Clerk.
Motion is approved by a vote of 8-0.
Thank you very much. Our next public hearing is an ordinance granting conditional use permit request C-15-13. Madam Manager?
Yes, Mayor Johnson, Vice Mayor, members of City Council, Scott Mills will provide the staff report.
Thank you. This request before you is conditional use permit request C-15-13. It's been submitted by Larry A. and Vicki L. Mellis, who are the property owners and applicants, to permit an accessory dwelling unit in accordance with provisions of the Unified Development Ordinance. Property is located at 1480 Shelato Lane, further identified as zoning map 53, parcel 25. It's zoned A agricultural, and the existing land use is a 16.44 acre site that contains a 2,076 square foot single-family home. The proposed use is to add an detached accessory dwelling unit to this property. The comprehensive plan identifies the property as being located in the rural agricultural conservation area. A little bit of case history. The property was granted a conditional use permit in 2002 to permit an accessory dwelling unit for the purpose of housing and caring for a member of the elderly member of the family. This unit that was placed there was in the form of a manufactured home, which is allowed with the conditional use permit in the agricultural district. One of the conditions of that conditional use permit required that mobile home to be removed when the person that was residing in it no longer resided there. And in 2009, that structure was removed from the site. The proposed accessory dwelling unit with this application will be a 725 square foot stick-built structure located behind the main house. Will be connected to the primary house's septic system, and the health department has approved that. There are several supplemental standards for detached accessory dwelling units contained in the Unified Development Ordinance. This application satisfies all of those requirements. We'll note that the applicants will be required to address any issues regarding construction of the dwelling unit pertaining to the building code with the Division of Community Development. There's also several approval criteria for conditional use permits in the Unified Development Ordinance, which are also enumerated in your staff report. Staff has reviewed those and finds this application satisfies those requirements. In that regard, the Planning Commission at their meeting of June the 18th voted 5-0 to approve a resolution recommending approval of this request with the 3 conditions contained in your approving ordinance. Following your public hearing, should you have any questions, I'd be glad to entertain those.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, please explain the timing system.
This is a public hearing, and each speaker is asked to provide their name and address. We will have a 10-minute period for the proponents, 15 minutes for those in opposition, and then an additional 5 minutes for rebuttal. The podium is equipped with a visual timing cue system to assist speakers in managing their time. At the 2-minute point, you will see the blinking green light. At the 1-minute point, you will see the yellow light. Once your time has expired, you will see the red light, and you are asked to be seated.
Thank you. This public hearing is now open. With the first proponent, please come forward.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Council. My name's Larry Mellis, 1480 Shelato Lane, Suffolk, Virginia. I'm the property owner. This dwelling that I propose to build is one we keep our mother-in-law every 3 months, and then she goes to her son when she's there. She'll be using it. Also, if we have guests or something, if we need an extra room or something, they'll be over this, be able to use it. At no time will this unit ever be rented out or having somebody other than my wife or I or a family member staying in it, they will not stay in it for any length of time. It'll be basically just an overflow from the home that we have, which it only has 2 bedrooms. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else to speak in favor of? Do we have anyone to speak in opposition? Sir, would you like your 5 minutes? No? This public hearing is now closed. Council?
Move for approval of ordinance C-15-13.
Second.
We have a motion to approve. Please prepare to vote. Please vote. Madam Clerk.
The motion is approved by a vote of 8-0.
Thank you. We'll move to our next public hearing, which is an ordinance granting conditional use permit request C-16-13. Madam Manager.
Yes, Mayor Johnson, Vice Mayor, members of City Council, Scott Mills will provide the staff report.
Thank you. The request before you is conditional use permit request C-16-13 to permit a family home daycare of up to 12 up to 6 to 12 children in accordance with provisions of the Unified Development Ordinance. It's been submitted by Sobey and Harriet Michael Freeman. They're the applicants and the property owners. They also reside in the existing house. Affected property is located at 3505 Ludlow Cove, further identified as zoning map 12J, parcel 1-200. Present zoning is PD plan development. The existing land used to have an existing single-family dwelling. They also have a family home daycare that's permitted with a maximum of 5 children. That was permitted with the issuance of a home occupation permit and is permitted in the zoning district by right. They are proposing to expand that family home daycare to care for 6 to 12 children. The surrounding land uses, as you can see from the overhead exhibit, are all residential. Case history: final plat for the Kempton Park subdivision was approved in October of 2001. In June of 2005, the city did issue a home daycare permit to have up to 5 children, which is customary with a typical single-family dwelling. Again, those were permitted as what's called a home occupation, and they're permitted by right. In March of 2010, Virginia Department of Social Services expanded their license approval, as I understand it, to allow them to have up to 12 children. However, that does not preclude local zoning approval, which I do not believe they received at that time, and they are here tonight for that. The applicant is requesting a conditional use permit to expand the existing family home daycare from the current permitted number of children, which I mentioned before is up to 5, to a maximum of 12 children. The family home daycare facility would be operated Monday through Friday from 6:45 a.m. to 5:15. The daycare would provide care for children between the ages of 6 weeks to 5 years old and would be staffed by 3 people. The floor plan shows a daycare area, an infant and toddler room, which will be the primary areas utilizing the home daycare. I will note in regard to conditional use permits that they're not a privilege, they're a right, and each conditional use permit is reviewed independently of other conditional use permits or other applications of the same type in other locations. And they're reviewed to determine what impacts they may have on adjacent land uses, adjacent neighborhoods, traffic circulation, et cetera. And in some cases, they may be fine and may be approved. In some cases, you may add conditions. In some cases, you may find that there's no conditions that would be appropriate due to the potential impacts that the proposed use would have, and therefore you may deny those applications as well. This site is served by public water and sewer. Utilizing the off-street parking requirements in the Unified Development Ordinance, we do note that the existing single-family dwelling requires a minimum of 2 parking spaces, and the daycare portion will require a minimum of 4 parking spaces. There's 2 parking spaces in the garage that could satisfy the home use. There's also 2 parking spaces minimum in the driveway for commercial uses such as daycares, and we believe this is turning into a more commercial use as you expand from 6 to 12 children or up to 12 children. We do not allow tandem parking, so there is not ample parking from our perspective located on site, thereby forcing people to park in the right-of-way. The applicant currently has a rear yard play area of approximately 2,700 square feet. It is enclosed with a 6-foot privacy fence, and that will suffice as an adequate play area if this application is approved. If this application is approved, we would recommend that a condition be placed limiting the hours in the fenced play area from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. since this is in a residential area. There are several conditional use permit approval criteria I've mentioned with all conditional use permits. And in reviewing this application, the primary issues that staff have identified have been with parking and traffic circulation. Again, as you can see from the overhead, this is a dense, single-family detached residential neighborhood. We do not believe from a staff perspective there's adequate on-site parking to serve the anticipated number of children. Understanding, children may come and go at different times and be picked up. The code does take that into account. We do not require parking for every child there. Again, in this case, we require 4 parking spaces for the daycare. Staff has reviewed this in compliance with the standards. We feel that the traffic circulation, the amount of lack of parking could have a negative impact on the neighborhood and so forth. We've also indicated in our review that noise associated from up to 12 children in a play area in this environment could have noise impacts on adjacent properties. Therefore, staff in reviewing this has recommended to the Planning Commission that this application be denied. I will note that the Planning Commission at their meeting of June the 18th reviewed this application, and following testimony in the public hearing, did approve a resolution recommending approval of this request by a vote of 5-0 with no conditions. Following your public hearing, should you have any questions, I'd be glad to entertain those.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you please review the timing system for speakers?
This is a public hearing, and each speaker is asked to provide their name and address. We have a 10-minute period for the proponents, 15 minutes for those in opposition, and an additional 5 minutes for rebuttal. The podium is equipped with a visual timing cue system to assist speakers in managing their time. At the 2-minute point, you will see the blinking green light. At the 1-minute point, you will see the yellow light. And once your time has expired, you will see the red light, and you are asked to be seated.
Thank you. This public hearing is now open. Would the first proponent please come forward?
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and City Council. My name is Michelle Freeman.
And my name is Sobey Freeman. I'm Michelle's husband.
I am the owner and manager of Michelle's Playland Family Home Daycare located at 3505 Ludlow Cove in Suffolk. I am here to request a conditional use permit in order to expand my family home daycare from a maximum of 5 to a maximum of 12 children. I am licensed, accredited, and rated 4 stars out of 5 as a family daycare provider. I am one of only 3 licensed providers in the city of Suffolk. I have been providing child care for civilian and military families for over 30 years, 8.5 of which have been in Suffolk. In September 2009, I began providing care for up to 8 children after I was authorized to do so under my conditional license from the state of Virginia. In March 2010, the Virginia Department of Social Services approved my family home daycare license, which authorized me to provide care for up to 12 children. Since that time, Michelle's Playland has provided care for at least 10 children on a consistent basis. There has never been any issues associated with Michelle's Playland to adversely impact my neighbors or my community. In terms of traffic and parking, there has never been any issues. Parents drop off, pick up, arrival times are varied, and they are only at my residence for a few minutes. 4 of the 7 families I currently provide care for have multiple children being picked up and dropped off. This is typical and reduces the flow of traffic. These factors assist in the mitigation of traffic flow, and there is never a need for long-term parking. I have photographs that I would like for you to see that shows that Michelle's Playland does provide adequate parking. Generally speaking, on the average day, minimal vehicle traffic flows in and out of our cul-de-sac. Where Michelle's Playland is located. I am especially mindful that Michelle's Playland is in a residential neighborhood, and I am very considerate of my neighbors and my community. Michelle's Playland is professionally run, managed, and has continued to provide an invaluable and much-needed service in Suffolk. Michelle's Playland nurtures, educates, and aids in the child's development in a loving environment, and it provides a means for us to take care of our families. Michelle's Playland is staffed by 2 employees, not 3. Again, I have provided care for at least 10 children over the past 3 years, and there has never been an negative impact of any kind on the neighborhood. Michelle's plan will continue to strive daily to maintain its spotless record, and granting a conditional use permit will not adversely impact the neighborhood nor my community. In closing, I ask that this request for a conditional use be approved because there is a need for child care in the city of Suffolk.
Thank you.
If I may, I'd like to just add, one of the main issues was parking, and it was stated that our driveway only provided parking for 2 vehicles. We submitted photographs that will clearly show that the driveway provides parking for 4 vehicles, and that is not including our 2-car garage.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else to speak in favor of this conditional use permit?
Hello, I'm Victor, and this is Siobhan. This is my wife, Victor Clark. We live at 2426 Alder Place in northern Suffolk. Our daughter, one of our 4 children, go to this daycare. I'm one of the physicians at Oversea Hospital and Riverside Regional Medical Center. We've had one child attend the daycare at Oversea, and when I compare the 2 daycares, this daycare has been more than extremely beneficial for our children. Our children have been in such a clean and beautiful edifice when they're at her playland, at her daycare, and it would be a shame to really disrupt this situation that's beneficial for not only our kids, but for many kids in the neighborhood. It has never been a problem in parking. There has never been a problem in sicknesses and things that you would see in a normal daycare, well, not a normal daycare, because when I was raised and when my wife was raised, we were raised in in-home daycares, so that is normal to us. So when we see how our child has benefited from, well, our children have benefited from these in-home daycares, it would be a shame to really change that in a situation as of a decrease in parking. And the parking, again, has never been an issue. I think that's been more than clarified, that people come and go at the different times. Nobody's ever there for more than 3 to 5 minutes, and that just really is not an issue. Everything else seems to have been passed well on the docket. So I think that what would be beneficial for our community and for our children is to continue a situation where we're able to continue to instill family issues in our kids, because that seems to be one of the things that our kids are lacking these days anyway. And some of the out-of-home daycares, what is stressed is a decreased relationship with the administration and the children. And our children don't need that. They need one relationship where we learn how to deal with one another as kids and as adults. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Candy Hayes, and I live across the street on the corner at 3500 Ludlow Cove. And we have never had a problem. The way you see that map, that's the way our street is all the time, because everybody parks in their driveway or garage, so the street is never full. And I have never had any problems with any the kids making noise or anything like that. So, thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good evening, Vice Mayor, Mayor, City Council. My name is Henry Dixon. My wife, Antoinette Dixon. We live at 4724 Camellia Drive. We also own a family daycare at that facility also. We have been in contact with Michelle Freeman for about 10 years now, and not only because of the care she gives the kid, but because she's access to her community. Michelle has had numerous awards. We have worked with her on many projects. We have attended many conferences, seminars, and we attended training that prepares us for these kids. The parking, I hear about the issue about parking, but as you can see, the parking, she had been doing this for over 10 years at that address with 10 children. So if there was an issue with parking, I think that the law enforcement or somebody would have been involved by now. There had not ever been a problem. I'm a little nervous right now, excuse me. Michelle Freeman has been a great friend of ours. We have been identified as some system experts in this field of child care. We've been into other homes trying to get them qualified to become licensed daycare provider, and hopefully, continue on to become owners, which we're trying to do right now. It's not a big job, but we do the best we can. We're self-employed, we have employees, and we also consider paying our taxes. She has always maintained the standards, above the standards for operating her daycare. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd just like to add that since I met Michelle Freeman, she was a challenge to me. She motivated me. She wanted me to do better in my business. And since I met her, we have been we incorporated now. We've been Social Aid with Smart Beginning, ECD, Suffolk, Planning Council. Michelle and I were just mentors this past year in the city of Suffolk. I'm nervous. We have a provider here that we mentor, and we have ongoing trainings. A lot of time, my husband and I, we walk around and we see all these signs around here about child care. And I look at my husband, I say, I wonder if they licensed. I look up, they're not licensed. A lot of people is doing it under the table. Michelle and I, we are not doing it under the table. And another thing, I just had a parent. I couldn't take them because child care is a dying need for the city of Suffolk. But we could only take so many. People call us on a regular. And she said that she's been in a lot of daycares, and she have never seen stuff like our daycare. And I'm like, what do you mean? She said, because you are so warm, clean, organized, ongoing training, all your certificates and everything is displayed on the board. Like she said, she's a 5-star daycare. 4-star daycare. We're a 5-star daycare. And I just ask you all, not that I'm a child care provider, just because the person that I have learned to grown to love, Michelle Playline and Michelle Freeman and her husband. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good evening. My name's, I'll give you my title. I'm Nuclear Machinist Mate, Surface Warfare Qualified, Marion Breland. I've been in the Navy 16 and a half years. I work on aircraft carriers. I've been on 5 aircraft carriers. I work with the reactors on the aircraft carriers. I have a job where I cannot worry about my kids. I have a job where I have to be, where I am called all hours of the day, all hours of the night. And I can't worry about whether or not my child's going to be looked after or whether or not I'm going to have to worry about my child being fed late in the evening. Michelle Freeman provides that for me. I can drop my kid off, I can call her and say, hey, I have to go into work. I'll be back in a couple hours, and she will take my child. Doesn't matter what time. I have never had problems in the mornings when I go on a regular day. Nobody's been there. I'm probably the first person that drops my child off. This morning I went to work at 05:15, so my husband dropped our kids off. I didn't get off work till 1700, but I know my kid was okay. I didn't have to worry about that. I got to focus on my job.
Ma'am, just a minute. The time has expired. How many more people do we have to speak?
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. So we have 3. Right. Well, I know that, but that's rebuttal. Counsel, is it your wish to extend this time?
So moved. Second.
4.
For how many people we got?
How many
Got
gonna
3.
speak?
1, 2, 3, 4.
10 minutes?
10 minutes, just fine.
They work. 12 minutes, yeah.
10 minutes.
I'll make a motion to extend the time 15 minutes.
Second, yes.
We have a motion to extend the time. Please prepare to vote. Please vote. Madam Clerk.
The motion is approved by a vote of 8-0, and that's 10 minutes, correct?
10 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Please continue.
Essentially, just to sum it up so everybody else can speak,
You're
we
fine.
need Michelle Freeman. I went through the CDC, which is a Child Development Center with the Navy. They gave me a stack of 47 names. I went through the first 7 names before I stopped. There was always a problem with the daycare center. Either it was dirty, they weren't attending to the children. Children were left alone in separate rooms. People were doing homework. People had dogs running around. There was always something with the house that I couldn't go through. I went back to the supervisor himself and told him they need to get right. She called me back and said, here's a name. I need you to call her. She gave me Michelle Freeman's name. From that moment on, I never had any issues. I went to the house. It was immaculate. You walk in. She turned her bottom half of her house into a daycare. That's how much she has given to her job, to her business. She's there for the kids. Everything is about the kids. Our kids have learned so much. They are so social with each other. They know each other. Our kids have learned so much in that daycare. They can count. We have 2-year-olds that are reading. We have kids that are potty trained at 2 years old. You can go to other daycare centers and you'll have 4- and 5-year-olds running around not potty trained. She is dedicated. If you need it, she will work with you to get your child to whatever point that you want to get your child to. She goes to training constantly. I've never seen a provider that will get off work at 5 o'clock and go to a training at 6 somewhere and stay there for another 2 to 3 hours dedicated to her business. She does that. She does that on the weekends. She spends her time. I'm sure if she wasn't here tonight, she'd be at a training. She does that for us. We have no concerns with her. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Hi, I'm Marie Baker. I reside at 509 West Washington Street, and I am also a member of the Early Childhood Development Commission for the City of Suffolk. I just want you to know that the commission members are 100% behind Michelle. We know the urgency in increasing care for children in this city. Virginia Beach has 83 licensed child care centers, family child care centers. We have 3. We also only have 30-plus registered family child care centers. What that means is that a person calls the state and says that I want to keep children in my home, and the state registers them. That means they do not have to be licensed, and that is a right for citizens in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Therefore, the majority of family home care centers in the Commonwealth run that business illegally. And we are so proud to have our 3. And the Early Childhood Commission this year, our major goal was to increase the number of licensed centers. We're working on it, but it's very difficult because of parking and so forth. And so when we have a center where there might be question on parking, but that truly the neighbors say that there's really not a problem with the parking, we want to try to embellish and embrace this business that is trying to increase for our children. Also, I want to say something about the noise quality. Because there are a number of infants in this center, all 12 children will not be outside at the same time. And that is very important to understand, because the infants may be in strollers and may go for a stroll a period of time during the day, but they're not outside in the play yard with the older children. So the noise level is not quite as extensive as you may think. So we do, all of the members, the 13 members of the commission certainly do say yeehaw for Michelle, and we certainly do hope that she gets this conditional use permit. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Madam Mayor, panel, thank you for your time and letting me speak. My name is Sandy McKay. I live at 3505 Farrier Cove in North Suffolk. I just started with Michelle's Playland approximately 3 months ago. I had a really hard time finding daycare for my child. I went through, my little guy is only 5 months old, so we started looking for daycare last September. Registered with CDC in September. We weren't due until February, and just got a call from one of the daycares, one of the 3 daycares we were on the waiting list for. Michelle's Playland, I knew that 2 of my other coworkers were had children at Michelle's Playland, and so I kept asking them, is there a spot open, is there a spot open, because I heard so many great things about Michelle's Playland, and I really wanted to get my little guy in there. And there wasn't a spot, and so I was a little disappointed. And then finally, her neighbor, which is a different coworker, called me and said, hey, I heard she has a spot open. You need to call her right away. My girlfriend left my house for dinner one night. She left, and I picked up the phone, and I called her, and I was like, I'm coming tomorrow for an interview. And then I walked into her house, and I said, here's my deposit. I mean, that's how excited I was that she had a spot for me and my little guy. My husband and I, like a previous speaker said, we're both active duty military. Michelle has been more than flexible, more than willing to open her home and her heart to my little guy and my husband and I to do whatever she can to support us with either long hours or with my husband's deployment and my either if I've had watch or with whatever schedule that I've had at work because we have different type of duty days or what have you. With the demanding schedules that we have, being both active duty military and wearing the uniform. So not only has she opened her heart, her home, she's proven through other various speakers that you've heard, the educational piece and the parking issue. I've, back in June when we heard that these hearings were starting, I've paid attention to, where do I park my car when I pull up to either drop my little guy off or to pick my little guy up. I've really paid attention to it. And I will say probably 95% of the time I've been able to pull into her driveway, pick up my little guy, and then 10 minutes later I'm pulling out. And of course I have an infant, so I'm asking her questions about the day. So I might spend a few extra minutes longer just quizzing and, hey, how did the day go? What was the last time he ate? So I might spend a few extra minutes there. But for the most part, 95% of my time, I'm pulling into her driveway, and I'm pulling out 10 minutes later. So I've never had a problem with parking. So I'd like to just say thank you for your time, and I hope we can put this to rest.
Thank you. Is there anyone else to speak in favor of?
Mayor Johnson, members of City Council, I know many of you. I'm Jen Staylor. I live at 1300 Mead Drive. Child care and quality care for children is my passion, and I know you all know that. So I'm just here to close this because I think we have said that Michelle does a great job. I have been in her home. I have seen her parking. It isn't a problem. We are so thankful to have her, and obviously as her parents are. Please grant her a conditional use permit. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll turn to, is there anyone to speak in opposition? We have a 5-minute rebuttal period. Would you all like your 5-minute rebuttal period, sir? If not, this public hearing is closed. Council, Vice Mayor?
Good. I would just like to bring Michelle, if you can come back to the podium, you and Sophie, I appreciate it. Even though it's not my district, I'm not going to make the motion, but the councilman from that district, I hope he makes the motion. I want to second it. That's how much. So I'm going to give it an honor. So I really appreciate that. Yeah, but I want to tell you, Councilman, that I did have a chance to talk to Ms. Freeman, and she's a very kind lady, and she somewhat stole my heart with a lot of compassion. And when I look at our communities, and there's a tremendous need for what you do, and a tremendous need for people with kids that love them and going to work within those environments. And I think that you're doing a very good thing, not only for the neighborhood, but for the city of Suffolk. And I'm hopeful in this conversation that others will come and perhaps do the same thing, because I know in my community you may have people daycare without license, keep up to 3 or 4, someone next block 3 or 4. But I'd rather for someone that's licensed and going to know the rules and do what's right and get the report that you reported. And from all the indication I have said, a lot of folks pass by making C's and B's, but tonight, from what I'm hearing, you made all A's. So I'm going to turn it back over to the councilman of your district to see what he wants to say.
Councilman Fawcett.
As a comment, I just want to commend you all for being blessed to want to take on 12 children. Good lands. my heart goes out to you for that. But anyway, thank you for being in the community and trying to help not just the local community, but the military that has such already a challenge on them. And I think that's great that you do that. So I'd like to go ahead and make a motion that we go ahead and grant the conditional use permit C-1513.
Without permission, without conditions, right?
Without condition?
Yes,
Yeah.
and I want to
That's
second
fine.
that motion.
We have a couple lights on. Councilman Dooman?
Thank you, Mayor. I do have a couple of comments. I might start by saying initially when I received our packet and I read your request, my initial inclination was to decline your request, not based on your abilities or your passion or how well you do with the children, but just strictly based on the parking issue, which it is what it is, and staff had recommended against it. I did view the Planning Commission's meeting, and during that time, a lot of the same speakers that spoke tonight spoke during the Planning Commission, and I think that there, besides the testimonials to the exceptional job that you do, I think what's more important is that you've been in business since 2005. There have been no complaints. You live on a cul-de-sac of which there's, in essence, no through traffic. With that being said, I believe there's only 9 other residences on that cul-de-sac, and no one has come forward to express their displeasure with you wanting to expand your business or with the idea that there would not be ample parking. I do think it would be a prudent course of action, which you would probably already take, that your cars and your employees' cars are parked somewhere away from the facility so there is no congestion there. But based on the Planning Commission's meeting and the fact that there is no opposition tonight and where you're located, I have no problem supporting it, and I wish you well in your endeavor.
Thank you.
Councilman Miltier?
Well, I think that the opportunity here is to approve the plan. The Planning Commission, I served on the Planning Commission 5 years, 30 years ago. Council normally approve 85% of their recommendations, but this is a recommendation that I oppose to approve. So you have my support as on the motion.
Councilman Gardy?
If Jen Saylor approves you, I approve you. That's good enough for me.
I wish you'd been around when my child needed potty training.
Call for a question.
We have a motion to approve, and we didn't mean to make you stand there all this time. Please prepare to vote. Please vote. Madam Clerk.
I just want to, I don't think I heard
Your
him.
light didn't come up.
I just want to make sure that he said C-16, because I thought he said C-15. Did he say C-16?
16-13. What you got?
Okay.
C-16.
I just got bad hearing.
Okay. Has everybody voted? Thank you.
Motion is approved by a vote of 8-0.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
We'll move on to our next public hearing, which is an ordinance granting an ordinance text amendment OA1-13 to amend Section 31-104, applicability subsection B, certain utilities and services exempt in Section 31-716. Madam Manager.
Yes, Mayor Johnson, Vice Mayor, members of City Council, this is our last public hearing, and Scott Mills will provide the staff report.
Thank you. The request before you is text amendment OA1-13, and this would amend Article 1, General Provisions, Section 31-104, applicability, subsection B, certain utilities and services exempt, and Article 7, Supplemental Use Regulations, Section 31-716, telecommunication facilities, subsection B2, exceptions in regard to telecommunication towers for governmental agencies for public safety, communications, and emergency services. The amendment will streamline the process for citing telecommunication towers or antenna that are used only by governmental agencies for public safety, communications, and emergency services. The ability of governmental agencies to transmit communications among public safety providers is critical to their mission to provide superior public safety services to the residents of the city. What this would do would go in, as I said, Section 31-104, applicability in subsection B, and it would provide exception number 5, which says towers or antennas used primarily by governmental agencies for public safety, communications, and emergency services would be exempt from the provisions of the ordinance. Just to let you know, there's several exemptions noted in this section. We do exempt towers that have relay capabilities for public utilities and things like that. We think this would be a similar situation to that. And we would also go in Section 31.716, which is telecommunication facilities, and we would go into subsection B2, which lists a series of exceptions to those provisions as well. And we would add exception D, towers or antennas used primarily by governmental agencies for public safety, communications, and emergency services. And these would be for any governmental agency that has a facility located within the city of Suffolk. Following your public hearing, if you have any questions, I'll be glad to entertain those. I will note the Planning Commission, their meeting of June 18th, voted 5-0 to recommend approval of the ordinance. This was also reviewed by the city's Committee on Ordinances, or the Planning Commission's Committee on Ordinances, who also recommended approval.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you please explain the timing system for speakers?
This is a public hearing, and each speaker will be asked to provide their name and address and will receive 3 minutes. The podium is equipped with a visual timing cue system to assist speakers in managing their time. At the 1-minute point, you will see the blinking green light. At the 30-second point, you will see the yellow light. And once the 3 minutes has expired, you will see a red light, and you are asked to be seated.
Thank you. This public hearing is now open. Would the first speaker please come forward?
I know where this is going to be.
Do we have any speakers? Not. This public hearing is closed.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Please prepare to vote. Please vote. Madam Clerk.
The motion is approved by a vote of 8-0.
Thank you. That concludes our public hearings for this evening. We have no ordinances, we have no resolutions, and we do have a staff report. Madam Manager?
Yes, Mayor Johnson, Vice Mayor, and members of City Council at this time. William Hutchinson, our Deputy City Attorney, will provide the staff report regarding a request at your last council meeting.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of City Council. At your last meeting, you asked for a report on the borough boundaries, the precinct boundaries, and the polling places within the city. And this particular issue arose out of an allegation that was made at your last City Council meeting alleging that City Council had engaged in voter fraud by removing the Colonel Meade Drive, which is located in the West Haven Lake subdivision in the city, from the Holy Neck Borough and placing it into the Suffolk Borough. This allegation was made because some of the voter identification cards that are issued by the Commonwealth of Virginia incorrectly identified the voting borough, precinct, and polling place. Before I go through some of the points on the slide, I'll back up and remind you of one thing, or a couple of things regarding voting districts. As you remember from redistricting, the city can establish voting borough boundaries on 2 occasions. One is the mandatory every 10-year redistricting that's required by the Constitution, and the second is if the General Assembly changes our charter and adds or removes a borough, in which case, at that point, we would have to redistrict. Those are the only 2 times that you can change borough boundaries. Polling places and precincts can be changed. As a matter of fact, there are times when they have to be changed because there are a maximum number of voters that are allowed to exist or to vote in those precincts. However, the process, as many of you have been involved in before with moving polling places and precincts, is it requires the City Council to vote on it, and it requires us to report those changes to the State Board of Elections and the Electoral Board because they control the registration system, and I'm going to go through some of this in more detail now. On November 16, 2011, the City Council passed an ordinance that established, through the redistricting plan, the boroughs, precincts, and polling places that currently exist in the city. In Section 26-1 of the Code of the City of Suffolk, it provides a written description of the boundaries for each borough. In Section 26-2 of the Code of the City of Suffolk, it describes the boundaries for each voting precinct. And in 26-4 of the City Code, it identifies the polling place for each precinct. Now, the GIS division of the city's Department of Information Technology has taken this and created has placed this on the GIS map. And if you'll recall, a couple of years ago, City Council adopted an ordinance or resolution, I don't remember which, that established the GIS map as the official map of the city. And the boundary descriptions were provided to, and the maps were provided to the registrar. Now, the normal process is that we provide those after we receive pre-clearance. However, in the case of redistricting, because it was in a year when there were numerous elections going on, both primaries and general elections, the State Board and the registrar's office asked for these maps earlier. So they were provided within, either around January or February of 2012, so that they could begin moving and assigning voters to the proper boroughs and polling places. Now, this is the GIS map, and this is not something that typically shows up on city websites, but it is something that is part of the planning map. And as you can see, the boundary for between the Suffolk and Holy Neck precinct is the center line of Lake Mead. I have in the red dotted line shown where Colonel Mead Drive is, and it's clearly within the Holy Neck borough. And although it's hard to see because the writing is small and that red's not showing up well, it is within the Lake Cahoon voting precinct. Now, this is the map that is put on the city website under the voter registrars tab on the city website. And it, again, shows the boundary between the Suffolk borough and the Lake Cahoon borough, the Suffolk borough, the Holy Neck borough, as Lake Mead. And it also shows that the West Haven Lake subdivision is within the Holy Neck borough, and it is within the Lake Cahoon voting precinct. So, in looking at these claims, I went through the stuff that would be publicly available to any resident. And when I did that, it showed that the claims that were made were false. What it also showed is that this was just merely an error made by the state when it put out the cards, and it's my understanding that error has now been corrected. The first thing I did was I went to the city code and I confirmed that there was no mistake made, and I confirmed that the center line of Lake Mead was the boundary between the Holy Neck and Suffolk boroughs, and that code section did state that. I also confirmed, as I showed you a minute ago, that the official planning map showed the Lake Mead as the boundary. Then I went to the State Board of Elections website, and they have a function on there that's called Where Do I Vote? And you place an address into that section, and it tells you your voting borough, your voting precinct, and your polling place. I entered addresses within the West Haven Lake subdivision, and I confirmed that they were identifying it as the Holy Neck Borough, Lake Cahoon Precinct, and the Kings Fork Community House as the polling place. I'm going to sort of zoom in on this GIS map that I showed you before. The Lake Mead is going to be farther off to the right than what you're looking at right now. Again, the dotted red line is Colonel Mead Drive. If you look over on the far, first let me back up. I did a search on Colonel Mead Drive, and when I did a search on the State Board of Elections website, I got an error message. So I was not able to confirm the voting borough for that particular street. So I then checked addresses on Colonel Pickett Drive, and I was able to confirm that that street was properly assigned to the proper borough, precinct, and polling place. I then checked Craig Drive, which is over there on the right-hand side, and I also confirmed that that street was placed in the correct borough, polling places, and precincts. I also tried to check Mount Pleasant Drive. I received the same error that I got for Colonel Mead Drive. So I then called the registrar's office to confirm whether or not Colonel Mead Drive was placed in the correct borough, precinct, and polling place. And just for everyone's information, the registrar is not an employee of the city. The registrar is an employee of the electoral board. The electoral board is appointed by the circuit court, and the members are nominated by the political parties. 2 members are nominated by the political party that won the last governor election, and then the party that got the second most votes picks the other member. And that is confirmed by the circuit court. The city has no control over the actions of the registrar or the electoral board. When I talked to the registrar about this, the registrar tried to do the same search I did, and she came up with an error message. And then she tried spelling Colonel Meade Drive as abbreviating Colonel as COL dot and then Meade Drive. At that point, she found the street, and she found that it had not been moved out of its old location. And she determined it was probably because of the difference between our map, which spells out Colonel Meade, and the state system, which did not. She then reported to me that she would fix the error and that she would send out new cards with an explanatory letter to all the affected voters. So as I just mentioned, the city has no control over the registrar. Additionally, the cards are issued through the state's voting registration system. The information provided on the State Board of Elections website says that one of its duties is to provide a centralized database for all state voter registrations. So the city doesn't issue the cards. The state issues the cards. The city provided the information to the registrar and the State Board of Elections for the issuance of their identification cards. And the State Board of Elections supervises the Electoral Board and the registrar in both issuing identification cards and conducting elections. So in order for the allegations to have been true that were made at the last meeting, there would have to have been a conspiracy between City Council, the Electoral Board, and the State Board of Elections, because the city cannot enter information into the voter registration system. Additionally, the city has not, and there's no evidence of it, altered boundaries since they were last reviewed by the Department of Justice, and that being our redistricting process. We have not had a need, because we've not had an election where we've exceeded the numbers, to change polling places or precincts. So there have been no changes. So it was merely an error by the registrar. And the proper party to go to, if the registrar is not cooperating and fixing the error, is to the entity that supervises them, which is the State Board of Elections, and they have a complaint system for you to file. That's another thing that's placed on their website, that part of their duties are to supervise registrars and electoral boards to make sure that they are correctly and fairly administering registration and elections. And that concludes my report. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions?
I'm relieved.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to motions. We have a motion to cancel the August 7th, 2013 City Council meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please prepare to vote. Please vote. Madam Clerk.
Motion is approved by a vote of 8-0.
Thank you. We have a motion to schedule a work session for August 21st, 2013 at 4 p.m.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please prepare to vote. Please vote. Madam Clerk.
Motion is approved by a vote of 8-0.
Thank you. At this time, we'll move on to non-agenda speakers. Madam Clerk, are there any speakers at this time?
Yes, Mayor Johnson, we do have speakers registered this evening. Each speaker will receive 5 minutes. The podium is equipped with a visual cueing system to assist speakers in managing their time. At the 2-minute point, you will see the blinking green light. At the 1-minute point, you will see the yellow light. Once your 5 minutes has expired, you will see a red light and you are asked to be seated. Each person participating under the item of business entitled non-agenda speakers shall limit their remarks to the services, policies, and affairs of city government. Speakers appearing before City Council will not be permitted to participate in the following activities: to campaign for public office, engage in personal attacks, promote private business ventures, or use profanity or vulgar language. Speakers who violate these rules will be declared out of order by the presiding officer and will immediately yield the floor and be seated. Our first speaker is Chris Dove, 852 Colonel Meade Drive, representing self regarding the Freedom of Information Act.
I have been accused of not being entertaining. So I'd like to start with a joke. How can you tell when Mayor Johnson is not telling the truth? Why, Councilman Parr's lips are moving. Ba-da-ba. Before I actually begin on my topic, I would like to thank the city attorney and apparently the assistant city attorney. I, for one, have been much educated. And thanks to their efforts and my ignorance, my voting rights have been restored. And I would like to thank both of them for their diligence on both behalf of my neighbors on Colonel Meade Drive and myself. Thank you both. Now to business. This government appears to believe that the laws don't apply to you. You've given into the habit of not only only obeying parts of statutes that you like, and ignoring the parts that you find inconvenient. The Virginia Freedom of Information Act requires you to immediately reconvene in an open meeting at the conclusion of a closed meeting, and to certify that you only discuss what you set forth in detail to discuss. On review of council meeting minutes, they show that you've only obeyed this requirement 7 times in the last 4 years. That's less than 9% of the time. You were also required to set forth in detail your discussion of the city manager's salary increase. You didn't do that either. Instead, you claimed to discuss her performance. And then, during the following council meeting, you made it clear that by your statements that you did discuss her salary and not her performance in the closed meeting. These are not your only obvious violations of the Freedom of Information Act. A favorite violation of the Budget and Planning Departments is to claim records are working papers, exempt from the Act. They use this ploy to withhold records in spite of the Act specifying that only the working papers and correspondence of the mayor are exempt. The city uses, another ploy used in general by the city is to impose a mandatory 5 working day delay to inspect records. Yet the Freedom of Information Act states all public records shall be open to inspection and copying by any citizen during normal working hours. The city has a mandatory the city uses the mandatory 5 working day delay for all Freedom of Information requests. Yet the Act states that the custodian of the requested records shall promptly provide the requested records. The 5 working day is merely a maximum of authorized delay. Promptly is clearly the operative word. And then there's my personal favorite violation. Whenever a particularly embarrassing record, such as one showing criminal misconduct, is requested, the city claims it doesn't exist. Records that the city is required to generate by law simply don't exist. Records that the state and local officials confirm do exist are not available because they have not been generated by the city. It's sad when a citizen has to take his government to court in order for them to follow the law, all of the law. Would you please give a copy each to the council members and the city attorney? These are writs of mandamus, and I will be filing those writs in 3 working days. And these, if you give these to the city attorney, this is an injunction and another writ of mandamus, and I will be filing those in 3 working days as well. They merely require you to follow the law as written. Thank you.
You have any other speakers?
Therese Neblett, 1526 Art Court, representing self regarding sign fees.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. I appreciate you letting me speak tonight. I come here to speak about the fee that you charge for putting up banners. I have put up a banner for the Out of the Darkness Walk. I don't know how many of you know about this walk, but I know a couple of you do because I know you personally. I have put it up for the last 5 years at my church, Bethlehem Christian Church on Holland Road, in memory of my husband. This walk is held every year in September, usually the first Saturday in September. This Out of the Darkness Walk is to make people aware that there is treatment for depression and to help prevent suicide. Last year, you started charging a fee to put it up. This sign is not for my benefit, but for the benefit of the people in this city. and in this community. This banner advertises the walk, which is to help prevent suicide. I feel by participating and putting up this banner, I can help someone else and prevent others from going through the same pain and agony that my family, and I have been through. You can never know who or how many or how much you might help with this banner and the walk. The walk is only a benefit we have for mental health. Suicide is a disease that affects thousands of people each year. There are hundreds of walks across the country. I do not feel that this charge for a fee for putting the banner up is fair. This benefits the people in our community, and by charging, I feel you do not care for the community as much as I do. My husband and I both did a lot of things for this church and the community. He was a people person and cared for others, and I think a couple of you know that very well. I don't think it is fair to charge churches and charitable benefits to put up banners when you don't charge for putting up political campaign signs. There are no benefits to the community, and they are long after voting is over sometimes. Mine comes down the day after the walk, well, 2 days after the walk, because I don't take it down on Sunday. These voting signs are eyesores to the community. Have any of you ever had to pay for your signs when you ran for office? Then why should I, when I am not benefiting from this in my pocket, and it is helping our fine citizens in this community? Our banners for the walk are not eyesores, and you may never know how many lives they may save. How many lives are you saving with your voting signs? I think there should be no charge for anyone putting up a banner or sign that helps the community, including the churches. No other cities in this area charge for this sign. I put up my banner for the last 5 years and didn't have to pay till last year. If I cannot get any support for this matter to do away with the fee, then I plan to ask for help from the other places, such as the governor or maybe even the newspaper. And I know personally that the governor's wife participates in this walk and helps to put it on. The council should be supporting these benefits, not charging for them. Also, I think it would be nice if the City of Suffolk's mayor, police department, and firefighters would participate in the walk. It is the largest in the state and largest in the country. All of our surrounding cities, Virginia Beach, Norfolk, Chesapeake, all of them participate, and some of their firefighters and policemen help with it. Our own governor's wife helps with it, and we have a big support from our armed forces. They support it wholeheartedly because they say that it is a big problem in their armed forces. Our walk is sponsored locally by the SOS Survivors of Suicide support group. I participated in this group, and it was a big help to me, and we feel like our walk is a big help to the community. As I stated before, no other cities charge for this and show their support wholeheartedly. Why does Suffolk charge? I would like to see Suffolk Community Services participate and support the Out of the Darkness walk. We have a lot of people who have been through this trauma and family members who live here in Suffolk, and they attend the walk, and quite a few help with all the preparation before and during the walk. The walk has brought many who have been depressed and maybe even considered suicide to seek outside help, and sometimes even help from the counselors there at the walk.
Excuse me, ma'am, your time has concluded.
Who knows, it could help some of our fine officers and firefighters who have trouble handling the tragedies and they deal with every day. Depression prevails among teenagers especially, and our armed forces and law officers. Instead of charging for a fee for this, I would like to see you lend support to local charities who cannot even afford the fees sometimes. And I'd like to show you my banner.
Ma'am, your 5 minutes has expired.
Okay, you can see it's not an eyesore, and it does save lives.
Thank you, ma'am.
That concludes the speakers, Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank
We'll
you.
move on to new business. Do we have any additions to tonight's agenda?
Yes, Mayor Johnson, we have the following individuals nominated for appointment to the respective boards and commissions. The Fine Arts Commission, Jolene Neighbors and Linda Garrick. The Library Board, Judith Stone. The Suffolk Clean Community Commission, Laverne Flythe and Olene Saunders. The Suffolk Clean Community Commission, Keep Suffolk Beautiful Executive Board, Margaret LaRocca and Kathy Lang Russell. And the Welfare Advisory Board, Lula Holland.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the appointments. Please prepare to vote. Please vote. Madam Clerk.
Motion is approved by a vote of 8-0.
Thank you. Do we have any additions to tonight's agenda that anyone would like, council, that would be requiring a vote? If we do not, I know we've had a lot of conversation in the last week about the Nansemond cold storage, and I would ask our city attorney to read a statement.
Good evening. At the request of City Council, I would like to inform the public that Nansemond Cold Storage was owed $866.39 because they had paid double taxes on one building for 10 years. The Code of Virginia allows refunds in cases of double taxation beyond the 3 years that have been addressed by some. This was not a case of a dispute about the taxes owed, but a case where the city assessor completed extensive research to determine the amount that was overpaid by Nansemond Cold Storage, and the parties agreed to the sum that was overpaid. The Code of Virginia gave Nansemond Cold Storage the right to sue the city for the amount that was owed, and the city has authority to avoid litigation by settling cases. I hope this resolves a lot of the issues that came up about the payment for double taxation that the taxpayer was owed.
Thank you. Any other new business? If not, we'll move on to announcements and comments, and we'll start with our Media and Community Relations Manager, Tim Kelly.
Good evening once again, Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council, City Manager. Well, the temperatures are certainly warm and the business scene is sizzling in Suffolk. We lead off tonight's presentation with several ribbon-cutting events. Suffolk now has a Tractor Supply store at 3000 Prudent Boulevard. The 19,000-square-foot store features agricultural fencing, livestock equipment, horse stalls, welders, generators, animal care products, power tools, and lawn products. Providence Psychological Services is open for business at 129 North Saratoga Street, Suite 1 in downtown Suffolk. Providence Psychological Services is an outpatient practice that provides comprehensive and effective mental health services. They offer faith-based professional mental health assistance to children, adolescents, adults, and families, covering issues such as depression, trauma, delinquency, ADHD, couples counseling, and more. Comfort Care Home Health Care, LLC, hosted a ribbon-cutting grand opening ceremony at 207 Market Street last week. Comfort Care Home Health Care provides personal and respite care services to clients in Suffolk, Portsmouth, Smithfield, Chesapeake, and surrounding areas. They provide nursing services and assistance with bathing, dressing, medication management, housekeeping, grocery shopping, and daily errands. Dollar General is open its second Suffolk retail store at 6513 Holland Road in the Village of Holland. Dollar General offers a variety of seasonal items from kitchenware, cleaning supplies, cosmetics, food, and apparel. They carry many national name brand items. The new store is approximately 7,200 square feet, and will employ 8 to 10 staff. Now for a unique ribbon cutting, Vice Mayor Charles Brown participated in a virtual ribbon cutting at the intersection of Nansemond Parkway and Shoulders Hill Road. This special event helped christen the Nansemond Parkway Phase 1 project without having to close the area to traffic and while maintaining safety for everyone involved. Let's see what this project will bring to the city of Suffolk. Phase 1 of the Nansemond Parkway construction project has reached its intended goals of improving traffic flow and alleviating flood concerns in the intersection with Shoulders Hill Road. Vice Mayor Charles Brown visited the site last week to cut the ribbon and offered his thoughts on this project, which will impact those who live, work, and drive in that area.
And now as I look at this project, we have relieved the traffic in Shoulders Hill Road. We have relieved a lot of the traffic on Nansemond Parkway. And we have relieved not only the traffic for the North Gate Commercial Park, but we had a tremendous flooding problem. All those problems have been relieved
Construction began in August of 2011 with the final surface paving and markings completed in July of this year with a total cost of $8.5 million. The traffic demand due to the development along the Shoulders Hill Road and Anscombe Parkway corridors, as well as the future expansion within Northgate Commerce Park, created the need for this work. Through the project, the road profile was increased and stormwater work was performed to address stormwater flooding within the intersection. The project also created a concrete sidewalk and a 10-foot wide multi-use path to facilitate pedestrian movement along with new traffic signal equipment. Phase 2 will continue with the road widening from east of the Phase 1 boundary to the Chesapeake City line in conjunction with Chesapeake's road widening project to the I-664 ramp. Construction is expected to be completed by the fall of 2015 with right-of-way acquisition scheduled to start in December of 2013. And another accomplishment for the City of Suffolk, the Government Finance Officers Association of the United States and Canada has awarded the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting to the City of Suffolk for its comprehensive annual financial report, the CAFR, for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2012. This year's honor marked the 29th consecutive year that the City has received this award. The Certificate of Achievement is the highest form of recognition in the area of governmental accounting and financial reporting, and its attainment represents a significant accomplishment by government and its management. The 4th of July provided another evening to remember with the Suffolk Parks and Recreation Stars and Stripes Spectacular on the banks of the Nansemond River at Constance Wharf Park and Marina. This free event offered fireworks, music, and family fun to all who participated. The Suffolk Police Department brought 4 new officers on board with a badge-pitting ceremony on Wednesday, July the 10th here in City Council Chamber. The department's most recent graduates of the Hampton Roads Criminal Justice Training Academy include Daniel Ranger, Aaron Smith, Tiffany Valentine, and Carissa Wilson. Congratulations to these new officers. Join Suffolk Parks and Recreation as they celebrate National Parks and Recreation Month. This year's theme is I Love My Parks and Recreation, and there will be several wonderful events planned. Come and enjoy the music, bounce houses, treats, and much more. I Love My Parks and Recreation activities are set for Mary Estes Park at 220 Hunter Street. That'll be tomorrow, Thursday, July 18th from 5 till 7 at night. Magnolia Park at 4600 Magnolia Drive, Tuesday, July the 23rd from 5 until 7. Now, there have already been a couple of other events that have taken place, so you don't want to miss out on your chance to take part in the fun. All events are free and, of course, open to the public. For more information, contact Suffolk Parks and Recreation, 514-7250. Here's a great chance to enjoy a cool event on a hot summer night. The annual Suffolk National Night Out Committee Duck Race set for this Friday night as part of the TGIF concert series at Constance Wharf Park and Marina. The Duck Race will take place during that night's performing artist, the Fuzz Band's first break. The park opens at 5:30 with the concert portion running from 6:30 to 9:30. Of course, we talked about National Night Out earlier in the council meeting. Tonight, of course, Tuesday, August the 6th, is prime for another superb National Night Out here. The kickoff ceremony, as noted, will take place at the Pavilion at the Suffolk Visitor Center at 5:30. National Night Out offers a unique opportunity for communities, civic leagues, neighborhoods, and businesses to all say no to crime and yes to partnerships on the same night. The deadline for sign-up for this year's National Night Out is Sunday, July the 21st. For more information, visit suffolknno.org. Of course, it is very important for everyone to know the basics when it comes to handling severe heat, as, of course, we're seeing this week. Here are a few tips on how you can stay safe in an oppressive heat wave. Check on elderly family members and neighbors to make sure they have a cool place to go if they have no air conditioning. During extreme temperatures, fans by themselves are usually not enough to prevent heat-related illnesses. Cold baths or showers can help cool you down. Drink cool, non-alcoholic beverages that increase your fluid intake regardless of your activity level. Never leave children or pets in cars. Temperatures inside a car can reach more than 150 degrees quickly, resulting in heat stroke and death. Drink plenty of fluids. To replace salt and minerals lost from sweating, drink fruit juice or a sports beverage during exercise or when you have to work outside. However, talk to your doctor first, of course, if you're on a fluid-restricted diet or medications or on a low-salt diet. Avoid sunburn and wear light clothing. Give your body a break as the heat wave can be stressful on your body. Limit physical activity until your body can adjust to the heat. And use the buddy system if you're working outside. If you're working outside and suffer a heat-related illness, you could become confused or lose consciousness. Therefore, make sure someone knows of your plans. We have additional staying safe in the heat information available on the city's website. You can visit suffolkva.us/heat safety. And again, we leave you with the ways that we reach out to our residents and business owners and also ways you can contact the city. Of course, always want to reference the main number for the city, the switchboard at 514-4000. And with that, we'll say good night.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll start with our comments, and we'll start with Councilman Fawcett.
Mike, want me to speed it up a little bit? Okay. Just want to throw out that I attended that small business community picnic over at the Constance Wharf, and I want to thank those folks from over at the Economic Development Department for putting that on. It was a great job. It was a great night. I had a chance to go to the Sister Cities Cookout. I attended along with my colleague, Mr. Miltier, and got to meet some fantastic folks, some young kids, or young adults, I should say, came from over in Italy, and it was a great opportunity to spend an evening with them out on the river, and they got to have a fun time in our city while they were here, and it's a great honor for them to be able to come here and be able to do the exchange and learn something about Suffolk and our culture here. I enjoyed the 4th of July celebration. It was a good opportunity. I thank everybody that put that on. It was a very nice evening, even though it was hot. As far as the police officers, Chief Bennett, your crew did an excellent job with the badge pinning. It was a great ceremony. Nice to have those new folks on board. I'm sure you'll put them to good use. Great opportunity to go out to the groundbreaking for the Pioneer Elementary School. I think the mayor said it best out there that day when that happened, even though it was raining, is the school presents itself as progress. And that we are looking forward to that new school going out in that area. And I look forward to seeing it open, and I hope I have an opportunity to go out when they do open it. Did a ribbon cutting with Vice Mayor Brown and Charles Parr over here at the Comfort Care. These people are dedicated themselves as a group of people that are going to go out here and care for people that need help that can't do for themselves. And I think that that's just going to be a great opportunity for them to give support to those folks out in the community. I'd like to thank everybody in our city, including this council, for seeing the Nasmith Parkway, Shoulder Hill Road project. It's just about done. It's only got a few little tweaks on it, some traffic light issues, but they did a great job out there, and I got to tell you, just that little bit has eased the traffic out there. Eric, it's eased that traffic out there tremendously. Now you're not backed all the way up the parkway. The right turn people got the opportunity to go down Shoulders Hill, and I look forward to that second phase coming up where we can extend it out and get in with Chesapeake to get it up to 664, because that's really going to open it up in that area. And I thank all of the city staff and the city personnel, the mayor, vice mayor, city manager for working on the bond issue, going up to New York and presenting a good product of what Suffolk's all about. It was a great opportunity for them to go. It's an eye-opening for people to see where Suffolk's going, and we're going to keep moving. I know we will. Remember, tomorrow Moe's opens up on North Main here, and get a chance to go out and eat a little bit of their food. I'm sure they would appreciate it. We're having an opportunity to see that corridor open up to businesses, and I'm excited about that happening. With that, thank you, everyone, and have a good evening.
Councilman Ward.
Yeah, I'd like to mention that I went to Pewsville Civic League, a normal monthly meeting, and also that the fact that the EDA they put on it was a good picnic. But I want to give big kudos to July 4th fireworks. I think that was one of the best events that the city put on. Whoever was in charge, the city manager, all did a great job with that. I think with the amount of people was there and the spirit, it was just a fun, nice event to be at. I really enjoyed it. And also, like I was missing actually most of the whole groundbreaking, but I want to give my friends Jeff Gotti a good congratulations for the Dollar General out there, and also the Pioneer Elementary School.
Thank you.
With that, I'll say, God bless.
Councilman Gardy.
Tonight is typical of what's happening in Suffolk, surprising Suffolk. We had a number of public hearings, and it went anywhere from a business out in Harborview where they're going to OI, and that's going to be expansion, meaning jobs. In downtown, we're going to have the what has been unsightly for years, the old McClellans and the West Russian. We can finally look at some improvement in that area. We've got, I just turned my water over. We've got the Chantel and her husband. That was wonderful. That was a wonderful presentation. You're bringing the city of Suffolk something we need. I understand the planning because they got to go by the rules, but to come up here and you have no neighbors in opposition to you, but neighbors saying you're doing a fine job, it's a credit to you. And it's a credit to the city of Suffolk. As I look down here, Mr. Mellison's taking care of his family. Congratulations. It's small, but it's nice. It's a good thing for Suffolk. And we have the telecommunication. We're worried about their security. And finally, the Dollar General was nice. People in Holland had to drive to Suffolk, had to go to Franklin just to get a loaf of bread and some milk. Now they got a Dollar General. About 50 or 60 people lined up when we opened it up that morning out there. And surprisingly enough, out of that 50 or 60, I normally expect at least 10% or more to be complaining about something, but not a one complaining about a thing. They were glad that it was there. And the school, the only negative thing I heard about the school was I heard that I was not taking enough dirt in my shovel. But it was wonderful. I wish Milton Liverman could be there. Milton worked on the school for over 10 years. I've been working on it for 5. And we finally put that shovel in the ground, and she's coming up. And that's going to be good for our students because they've been going to old schools, mold and what have you, and now they're going to get a good education. I appreciate your remarks. And finally, I'm going to leave you one more thing. The paving in downtown Holland where they've been putting in the water, they can look forward to it, weather holding, and sometime in August, we feel. That's when to look for it. And if you don't see it in August, look for Al, not me. With that, I bid you a good night.
Councilman Duman.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to start by saying I'm pleased to see Chief Bennett back on the job. I missed his smiley face there at council meeting. Welcome back. Good to see you back. I would also like to address the young lady who mentioned the banner that she's trying to put out for out of the darkness. I mean, it's a great cause. You know, I am familiar with it. I was probably the chief proponent of the banner ordinance, but I think you need to keep in mind that there were a lot of banners around town. Most of them were illegal, and to have it legally, it fell within the special events category, which I believe was a $100 fee at the time, and it was only temporary. Now you're able to get a banner permit for a nominal of $25 for a full year, and it's not so much the amount of the money as it was just an attempt to put into place an ordinance that was consistent and that could be enforced, and at the same time, you know, it dictates condition, size, material, and placement, so there's not an eyesore on the community with banners just being put up any fashion they would like to be. I would also like to say that I would be more than happy to donate enough money to your cause to cover the banner fee and a little bit more. Just stop by and see me. It would be my pleasure to do so. And it appears, based on your banner, you'll be well within the specifications, which I believe 3 by 8 was the limit on it, and your banner looked fine. You have to check. You still have to do your permit, but it looks good. With that being said, just a couple quick things. One, the Business Appreciation Event at TGIF, sponsored by the Economic Development Department. I mean, exceptionally well done. I enjoyed it. My wife enjoyed it. My puppies enjoyed it. Everybody ate really well. I attended and participated in the first annual salute to our wounded warriors, which was sponsored by the Suffolk Elks Club in conjunction with the Suffolk Ruritan Club. Jimmy Franks and E.C. Harris kind of spearheaded that effort, and it was just an exceptionally well-run event. They're going to have to find someplace else to do it next year where there's more room. I believe there were 20-some wounded warriors that came from Portsmouth Naval Hospital And with everything they had there, we could have probably accommodated 100. But I know they'll be putting on that again next year, and I want to commend them for their efforts. July 4th, I had the privilege of participating in the July 4th celebration in Eclipse, and I had the opportunity to speak and also to participate in the parade. And in Suffolk, you can get a double bubble here. You know, they start about 11 o'clock in the morning, and they go all day with a lot of events, and it was an exceptionally well-run, impressive affair that would probably equal events that are being sponsored by other cities throughout the community. So you could actually hit them first and then go to Constance Wharf, and that's what I intend on doing next year. And with that, I will be brief. I do have one quote for the night from one of my favorites again, President Theodore Roosevelt, and that quote is, "If you could kick the person in the pants responsible for most of your trouble, you wouldn't sit for a month." And with that, I'll say good evening.
Councilman Miltier.
I was quick.
We had the opportunity of attending the exchange students from the sister city. Activity was very good. Also, this afternoon we learned that on August the 2nd, the extension of the bus service in the inner city is going to cover Weldon Street, going into Kilby and Brook Avenue, going back to Carolina Bishop to serve that area. And we want to get the citizens in that area informed about this additional services. It's going to be the 1st of August. Services will be serving the Saratoga area. It was left over from HRT. It's coming back. So we're looking forward for that. That's just all we have for tonight.
Councilman Parr.
Thank you. All that stuff they've already said, I did. Want to remind everybody to go vote in the special election. Not everybody in the city of Suffolk is in the Senate race on August the 6th, but those that are, check your voter's registration card and all that. Or better yet, call the voter's registration thing, or better yet, call the other guy because he knows everything. The City Hall building is looking great, like that elevator shaft and all that. And we'll be at Moe's in the morning at 10:45 to cut the ribbon. And I don't need that. I just, on a sad note, I wanted to send out my condolences to the Ethel Ely family for the loss to the Jericho Hollywood Civic League. She was truly the president and matriarch of that Civic League, and she's going to be truly missed. With that, good evening.
Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Several announcements. First, Chief, glad to see you back. They have always said you can't keep a good man down, and you're a good man, so glad to have you back. I, too, want to send condolences to Ethel Ely. When I came to Suffolk maybe 50 years ago, she was the president, and she stayed the president of Jericho Hollywood until her death. So I don't know how long it was, but Curtis probably could tell me how long she's been the president. We had an opportunity to go to New York to the bond rating agency and explain what a bond rating agency does. It's very similar when we want to borrow money. We go to the bank. If our credit is good, we get a lower interest. If our credit is bad, sometimes we walk out the door hanging because we get no money. But when we went to New York, I was very, very impressed with how well the staff was prepared and what an excellent job they did so far as answering the questions about our city.
We went to Fitch, Moody, and the Standard & Poor's. And from all indication that I'm getting, Moody's and Standard & Poor's, we have not heard from Fitch, but all of the top rating agencies in the country is saying that we're doing the right thing. Continue to manage your city well. Continue to do the things that we're doing, and eventually we will be to the highest rating possible. That is a AAA. So we are on that road. So I just want to commend this council. I want to commend the mayor, the city manager, the staff, and all Suffolkians. Let's continue to come up with a good plan, work the plan, and let's see making sure that we have the finest city in the country. I also want to, again, mention to Michelle and Sable that I was very impressed with what you are doing. Usually, I normally vote no, because in the community, but you had so many people convince me that what an excellent operation you have, and I just hope that you can continue on and perhaps train others, because we do need more daycare services within in the city. And in a way that I can help you, by all means, please let me know. I do want to comment on two other things. I know all week, every time I turn on the TV or radio, I constantly hear about Trayvon Martin and George Zimmerman. And when tragedy like this happens within the country, there are always many lessons that we can learn. You should never, ever let something of this magnitude happens if we don't learn from it. I think there's a lot of lessons to be learned from this. Because when I look at my situation, I have two grandsons, and they wear hoodies. And when I look at every community, you have Trayvon Martin. In every school, you have a Trayvon Martin. In every church, you have a Trayvon Martin. And they're not necessarily black. They're not necessarily white. You will see black, white, female, and other people of color. So I think it's given us an opportunity to learn. Just because someone is different is not saying they're bad. I think this is a lesson, so I'm hoping that the city manager, that we can take this as a case study and begin to learn from it. Because I know sometimes I go jogging, I go walking, especially in the wintertime, I wear a hoodie. So we just need to learn from it. And I was talking with a couple of preachers, and they want to have a big march and what have you, but I don't want to just have a march in the city, a black march, a white march. I want to do and learn from it. So maybe, Ms. City Manager, you could help me how we could have a forum and listen to the students, and so we can get as much information as we possibly can, and listen to the parents, listen to the communities, and get as much information as we can, so we can learn from it, and hopefully we will never, ever have another Trayvon Martin and a George Zimmerman, because as you look at it, due to the constitutional right, you have many George Zimmerman also in every community. They carry the heat. They carry the heat in every community, in almost every family. So those conditions are out there. Now, what are we going to do to make sure our communities stay safe? What are we going to do to make sure we just not going to just kill someone just because they may be different from us? The other thing, I want to talk a little bit about public housing. And I don't know how to do this, but I want to come from a positive approach. I can remember in 1994, I had an opportunity to serve on the redevelopment housing authority board for 4 years.
And what I saw, some of the smartest people in Suffolk at that time, there was some in public housing, and some of the cleanest and people of integrity. I saw those people in public housing. So public housing had its purpose. And occasionally I have gone to, when Ms. McAdoo gives awards to those students who made honor roll, and she'd have quite a few, they are from public housing. But occasions it's not necessarily the people that live there, the people that visit most of the time in your communities. But over the period of years, when I was there, the federal government would give you just enough financial resources to fail. It's always a problem. They never gave enough resources to make people very successful. It was always just enough to say we don't have enough. And when I look at Cypress Mountain Park and Riddick, over the period of months, there have been absolutely too many arrests. There have been absolutely too many deaths, killings, and there have been absolutely too many vices going on in that neighborhood. No one should have to live under those situations this day and time. So maybe, Ms. City Manager, that we could ask the Housing Authority Board Director to evaluate public housing to see what is it that is needed to make those communities more safer and more productive. And if they need, whatever they need, let's see how we can work, because there are some very good people in public housing. And I want those people to have the same opportunity to be successful as any other human being. We owe them that right. So whatever it takes, let's see can we get a team and to make sure, regardless of where you live, that community is going to be safe, it's going to be decent, it's going to be sanitary, and it's going to be productive. With that, I will say good night to all. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Councilman Gardy wanted to talk again, but he changed his mind. Okay, so I'm going to end this evening with just a couple of things, and we have had a great meeting tonight. We had a lot of public hearings. They all went well. I think the business of the city is moving forward just as it should. I got a letter today that I just want to share with everybody from the Independence Center of telling me how appreciative they were of receiving a human services grant funding for FY14, showing that the city of Suffolk is demonstrating its commitment to Suffolk's residents with disabilities and the Suffolk community at large. So I think when we get things like this, it's important to share them, because there's so many good news stories going on in our city. You know, we can sit here and be negative, and you know, one of the things about being an elected official is that folks can say whatever they want about you, and that's okay. It's really okay. That's what freedom of speech is. So, you know, I am a big girl. I can handle that. But we do need to stick to the truth. And one of the things I have to tell you is that there is no such thing as a working paper of the mayor or of the councils. Elected officials don't have the rights to working papers. We don't have the rights to do those things. So we don't get to take an exemption for anything. We're elected. We're open. That's the way it's supposed to be. So I'm not going to sit here and say that I have a working paper document exemption, because there's no such thing. It's plain and simple. It's just not there. We have an opportunity on August 6th to do what Suffolk does best, and that's to come together as a community for a common cause and get out here and show the people in Suffolk that we're all in this together, and that we're going to do whatever it takes to make this a safe and great place to live. We're going to work that avenue every single day, not just August 6th, which is always the hottest day of the year. We know that. So, but we'll be out there, and we'll be having a great time, and we'll be doing what we do best, which I believe Suffolk is best when it comes together. And I think that's what we work very hard at doing every single day. The Vice Mayor's right. We had a great trip to New York, even though we spent, 11 hours in the airport unexpectedly because we couldn't get home. But having said that, when the reports hadn't come yet, and we knew they were coming in the middle of July, but I'm an anxious person, and I like to get out there and see if I can find it on the internet. And I started searching. I started searching Standards & Poor's, and I started searching Fitch to see if the city of Suffolk was coming up. And I'm glad I did that because I went through all the S's in the country. I just started going through the S's to see if I could find us. And what I really saw, which really woke me up, was all of the areas that unfortunately have negatives beside them. Because it's still a tough time in this country, and people are still having to come out and dig out of this economy. So when I got that perspective, our ratings meant even more to me, because I could look at them and say, wow, we really are solid. And if you read, please go online and read them. They're on every Moody's, Fitch, Standards & Poor's. You can go on, you can pull up our city, and you can read the entire commentary. And it's not us making it up. It's them saying what we're doing. And I have to applaud our city manager and our staff and our finance department for putting us where we are today, because one of the statements, and just it's a short statement from Moody's, but it said that we had 7 times in our unreserved balance, 7 times what we had in 2006. That's a great statement, and I'm extremely proud of it. And I'm proud of every single citizen in the city of Suffolk that's helped us to get there, every business and every resident. So, you know, we can put a lot of negative out here, or we can put a whole lot of positive out here. And I prefer to put out the positive. And with that, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Please prepare to vote. Please vote. Madam Clerk.
The motion is approved by a vote of 8 to 0.